Ninetales. Editor Ninetales. If Granny Sai or village chief were here, they definitely would have scolded Chinmu for fooling around and putting himself in danger. After all, the god voice was different from the collective voice of the maidens in the ruins. Granny C and village chief would have considered it a mistake to use the chant of the devil voice to counter the god voice and break the wall. If the god voice reacted to the devil voice's chant in a strange way, the end result wouldn't be as simple as Chinmu losing just his life. It was possible that his soul could end up being destroyed. However, neither of the two were there to bring this danger to Chinmu's attention, so he didn't know about the risk. As soon as Chinmu learned the devil voice's ancient chant, he tried it out. When his vital chi reached the space in the middle of his eyebrows, the god voice from the 9 heavens above resounded out as usual, pushing back his vital chi. Chinmu recited the devil voice's chant, and both of the voices immediately began to fight one another. Chinmu seized the opportunity to push his vital chi and have it break the spirit embryo wall. However, the god voice always managed to break through his devil chant from time to time, pushing back his vital chi. Despite failure after failure, Chinmu refused to be discouraged and continued to push his vital chi toward the wall. After hundreds of failures, his vital chi finally managed to ram into the spirit embryo wall. However, it didn't break. The spirit embryo wall was still standing. I couldn't utilize all of my vital chi with the god voice distracting me. Chinmu thought to himself, somewhat understanding what had happened. Because of that, the wall didn't break. Having identified the problem, Chinmu continued his efforts to break the wall. Numerous failures later, he finally managed to hit the spirit embryo wall with his vital chi once more. Just like the first time, the wall didn't collapse. Not long after that, he succeeded in hitting it a 3rd time, then a 4th time, and then a 5th time. Since Apothecary had been teaching him how to refine herbs into medicine, Chinmu had developed a nearly endless patience. Refining herbs tested one's patience, wisdom, vision, and finesse. Among these traits, patience was the most important. If a person wasn't patient, they would never be able to concoct effective medicine. Countless failures later, Chinmu could finally hear a cracking sound emanate from the space between his eyebrows. This sound rang out like a gentle, heavenly melody. Even though Chinmu possessed a strong will, he couldn't help but get excited. A crack the shape of a lightning bolt appeared in the spirit embryo wall. The spirit embryo wall was invisible, so it could only be felt, not seen. The moment the crack appeared, a ray of light shone from his brow in the shape of a lightning bolt. As it did, it gave Chinmu a wondrous feeling. If a person were to close their eyes, everything would go completely dark. They wouldn't be able to see the space between their eyebrows, the spirit embryo divine treasure, or the spirit embryo wall. If a person's vital chi created a crack in their spirit embryo wall, they would be able to see a ray of light shining out from the darkness in the shape of a lightning bolt. Once that happened, they would be able to see their spirit embryo wall. Not only did Chinmu see his spirit embryo wall, he could even see the spirit embryo divine treasure through the jagged crack in it. The spirit embryo divine treasure radiated an intense, brilliant light. This sparkling light and thick vital chi bled through the lightning bolt-shaped crack and fused with the vital chi outside the wall. The vital chi on the other side of the wall, with the divine treasure, was much purer and stronger than the vital chi that Chinmu had cultivated all this time. However, they were similar in that both did not possess any attributes. Chinmu strongly believed that the vital chi he cultivated came from his overlord body, so he was perfectly fine with it being devoid of attributes. Aside from just vital chi, something more mystical lay hidden inside the spirit embryo divine treasure. However, since the wall only sported a jagged crack and hadn't been completely broken, Chinmu couldn't see what else lay within. Chinmu's heart sank as the lightning bolt-shaped crack began to close. The spirit embryo wall apparently wasn't as simple as he thought it was. Although it had a distinct shape most of the time, the formless energy that it consisted of was like a sticky glue. As a result, it could repair itself whenever it was breached. One wouldn't be able to break the spirit embryo wall unless they completely demolished it in one go. My vital chi still isn't strong enough. However, the more cracks I make in the wall, the stronger my vital chi will get. My vital chi will eventually become strong enough to completely break down the spirit embryo wall. The moment he finished raising his spirits, the crow of a rooster jolted Chin-Mu from his meditation. The sound stirred his heart, and he quickly opened his eyes. Among the strange beasts around Chin-Mu were a few bald-neck roosters. Each of them was abnormally large and intimidating, being as tall as a normal human. Their feathers were magnificent, but none grew from their necks. These were the birds that had just crowed. "It's almost morning," Chin-Mu said in realization. Awakening from his trance, hazy rays of light started to appear in the eastern skies, signaling that dawn would soon break. It was too late for Chin-Mu to try and completely break down the spirit embryo wall. It was good that he had finally figured out how to break down walls. As long as he managed to escape the grasp of senior brother Q and senior sister Ching, he would have all the time in the world to break them. Even though he had only managed to create a crack in the spirit embryo wall, Chin-Mu's cultivation had improved to the point where he was confident that he could to escape from them. "It's almost morning," senior brother Q stated solemnly. "Our 3 junior brothers died at the hands of this little devil," senior sister Ching said coldly. "Their souls in heaven wouldn't be at peace if we let him escape." Chin-Mu stood up and stretched his body, pretending not to hear them. The maidens in the plaza continued their bitter struggle against the darkness, stuck at an impasse as light and dark clashed over and over. Soon enough, another crow sounded out. The voice of the darkness became extremely loud and clear, a sign that it was growing impatient. The collective voice of the maidens resounded as well, resulting in a stunning clash between light and darkness. A third crow rang out as the first rays of sunlight suddenly pierced through the darkness in the east. Illuminating the mountain peaks nearby, sunlight shone onto the pitch darkness, forcing it to immediately recede like an ebbing tide. The darkness retreated as quickly as it had arrived, withdrawing beyond the horizon at an increasingly rapid rate. As the light of dawn illuminated the valley, the luminescent pearl gradually descended from the air. Its iridescent light flooded back into the plaza before the sunlight reached the ruins. As the multicolored light vanished, the maidens in the plaza reverted back into skeletons, sitting there motionlessly. It was as if the fierce battle that was fought throughout the night had just been an enchanting dream. Chin-Mu had previously heard the villagers talk about the strange things that happened in the great ruins, about how monstrous and outrageous they were. However, seeing them happen with his own eyes was definitely more overwhelming than just hearing about it. Whenever night fell, the darkness would invade. The face of darkness would form and chant in its mysterious devil voice. The skeletons in these ruins would transform into maidens each night as well, taking part in the struggle between light and darkness. All of these strange events simply couldn't be understood. The secrets behind these events were just waiting for people to unearth them. As the herd of strange beasts crept toward the gate to leave the ruins, Chin-Mu's figure blended among them. The peaceful beasts seemed to have an unwritten rule forbidding conflict within the ruins, but they would probably become extremely dangerous again as soon as they were outside. On the other side of the herd, senior brother Q glanced at senior sister Ching, and both of them blended into the herd as well. They slowly made their way over to Chin-Mu. The herd continued walking out of the ruins in an orderly manner when suddenly a sword quietly shot toward Chin-Mu from behind. He promptly dodged the strike, resulting in the treasure sword nearly stabbing into a nearby beast. That strange beast roared irritably. "Junior sister, don't use your sword," senior brother Q exclaimed. "If this herd of strange beasts was to go on a rampage, all of us would just die here." His warning caused junior sister Ching to reclaim her treasure sword and leap onto the back of a strange beast. Leaping from one beast to another, she quickly closed in on Chin-Mu. Chin-Mu envied senior sister Ching's ability to form a thread of chi and use it to manipulate her treasure sword from dozens of yards away. Although this ability wasn't as astonishing as Butcher's divine arts, he found it impressive nonetheless. Senior sister Ching's footsteps were light and graceful, and her dress spun through the air like a pink lotus. From under that lotus, her feet kicked towards Chin-Mu like sharp blades. The leg skill she used was sharp and precise. Each of her kicks seemed like a huge hammer covered in spikes and caused the surroundings to vibrate with a hum. This kind of leg skill could easily shatter huge rocks and even penetrate an iron wall. Chinmu's eyes lit up as he faced Senior Sister Ching's whirlwind of kicks. Thinking back to his training, he remembered Cripple telling him about how the heaven-pilfering leg skill had never lost to any other leg skill. Translator, Ninetales. Editor, Ninetales. A pale white leg flashed out from beneath a peach-pink skirt like lightning from a sheath, colliding head-on with a thick, corded leg wrapped in beast-hide shorts. Though Senior Sister Ching's legs were long and supple as willow boughs, within them lurked a terrifying strength, keen as a blade's edge, yet heavy as an axe's downward chop. Chinmu's legs, by contrast, were sturdier like seasoned timber, yet they moved with a strange grace and airy lightness, as if there were hardly any force within at all. Bang, bang, bang! Legs met legs in a chain of explosive impacts, each collision ringing like thunder in the marrow. In the span of a breath, both of Senior Sister Ching's legs were struck by countless kicks. Chinmu's leg art was simply too swift, so fast she could not even react. The instant Chinmu's dazzling storm of kicks descended, the astonishing strength hidden in her legs became useless. That strength dispersed at once, vanishing as though Chinmu's legs had swallowed it whole. Crap! As Chinmu continued to drive his kicks into Senior Sister Ching, the pain in her legs spread into numbness. His kicks battered her waist, chest like a gale-lashed storm beating down upon banana trees. After the furious exchange, Chinmu's body spun in midair. He coiled himself like a bow being drawn to its fullest, preparing a back kick. This kick was not the same as the leg art he had been using until now. His earlier kicks had traded power for speed. The kick he was now gathering held a startling weight of strength. Bang! Chinmu's back kick detonated against Senior Sister Ching's face. Her nose flattened into her face, bone fragments shooting from her mouth as her chin shattered into pieces. Senior Sister Ching flew headlong into the ruins, like a piercing arrow loosed from a bow. This outcome proved what Chinmu had believed. The heaven-pilfering divine legs was the best. Chinmu didn't dare proclaim it the best beneath the heavens, but within the village it was certainly the finest. Even though Senior Sister Ching's leg art looked vicious and overbearing, Chinmu had grievously injured her before she could even touch him. Moreover, Chinmu had not used a trace of vital qi, relying only on the strength of his fleshly body. Senior Sister Ching, however, had guided her vital qi into her legs to increase her force and raise the speed of her leg art. Yet even so, she had been crippled in a single exchange. The moment he kicked Senior Sister Ching away, Chinmu felt every strand of hair on his body bristle. A razor-sharp sense of danger surged from his heart like boiling water. With no time to turn, he rushed forward. Senior Brother Q had appeared soundlessly behind Chinmu and unleashed a killing strike. His blow should have landed easily, yet he had not expected Chinmu to be so keenly aware of his surroundings. Leaping from the back of one strange beast to the next, the two of them darted in frantic pursuit. Senior Brother Q moved exceptionally fast, raining strikes at Chinmu's heart without pause. Chinmu did not hold back in the slightest, sprinting forward while swinging both arms to intercept the assaults. Thunderclap 8 strikes, 1,000-armed Buddha. Senior Brother Q could not help but be shaken. Though Chinmu had his back turned, he still blocked every attack as if he had sprouted several arms. Senior Brother Q had never even heard of such a technique. Though Chinmu's 1,000-armed Buddha lacked Old Ma's rumbling thunder and flashing lightning with every strike, it still flowed like wind and moved as swiftly as lightning. Even while sprinting across the backs of beasts with his back to Senior Brother Q, Chinmu's defense was iron solid, leaving Senior Brother Q no opening to seize. Clang! At the sudden shriek of metal, Chinmu's scalp went numb. He instantly glanced down at his arm and saw blood streaming from a wound carved by a sharp sword. Chinmu rolled off the beast's back and slipped beneath its belly, Senior Brother Q following him down as well. His hands were empty, yet a silver sword flew to and fro around him. Chinmu's pupils tightened. Senior Brother Q's sword control was far superior to Senior Sister Ching's. She had driven her sword several yards away to strike enemies from afar. Senior Brother Q, however, kept his sword within a single yard of his body. This was terrifying, dangerous in the extreme. Controlling a sword at close range could easily cause the wielder to injure themselves with a single careless moment. To dare do so required astonishing skill, and it meant the controller's swordplay was formidable enough to inspire absolute confidence. Without exquisitely precise manipulation of vital chi, no one would dare control their sword in such a manner. Grandpa Butcher and the others never told me how to use my vital chi, and Village Chief never told me how to use Overlord body chi. Chin-Mu thought. In these conditions, I'll only be at a disadvantage. Chin-Mu's foot suddenly struck a wooden branch snapped from a tree by the stampeding herd of strange beasts. Without a second thought, he hooked it with the tip of his foot and guided it into his hand. The branch came from a willow tree, around 2 yards long and about as thick as a thumb. Clutching the willow branch, Chin-Mu moved swiftly, his gaze locked onto the sword blades circling Senior Brother Q. He paid no attention at all to Senior Brother Q's hands. Chin-Mu guided his vital chi into the willow branch, letting it run through the wood. Yet when his vital chi extended 16 inches along the branch, he lost contact with it beyond that length. 16 inches was far too short. To fight a flying sword with only that much of a weapon was perilous to the extreme. Senior Brother Q rushed forward, his treasured sword circling around him. It was as though an unseen swordsman held the blade, stabbing, slicing, flicking, hacking, and cutting at Chin-Mu with incomparably intricate changes. Chi! 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 In only a few exchanges, the willow branch in Chin-Mu's hand was reduced to 16 inches. When the sword hacked toward it again, the impact rang out with a clang, as if it had struck iron. The moment Chin-Mu saw that the willow branch infused with his vital chi could actually block the sword, relief swept through him. Keeping his eyes on the sword's edge, the 16-inch willow branch became his pig-slaughtering knife. With that stick of wood, he unleashed the knife art taught by Butcher Midnight Battle across stormy cities. Casting aside all stray thoughts, Chin-Mu poured his heart completely into executing this knife art. Faster, faster, faster! Butcher called his knife art the pig-slaughtering knife skill. Its essence could be summed up in one word: faster. Faster than flickering light, faster than fleeting shadows, so fast that by the time the hand lifted, the pig's head had already fallen from its body. With heart and mind fixed upon his knife, Chin-Mu swung the willow branch with wild abandon. He and Senior Brother Q dashed beneath the galloping beasts, metal ringing against metal as they clashed. The massive legs of the larger beasts were like pillars crashing down from the heavens, hammering the earth. The slightest carelessness from either of them would see them crushed into pulp. Every step the two fighters took looked chaotic and disordered, yet in truth, it followed a profound and mysterious rhythm. Each time a beast's hoof was about to stomp them, they always slipped away in time. As the fight continued, Senior Brother Q grew more and more shocked and frustrated by the situation at hand. He was actually being beaten by this little devil. The willow branch in Chin-Mu's hand was only about 16 inches long. Wasn't that merely a short wooden stick? His sword, on the other hand, was about 2 yards long. The sword control art he used, molding his chi into a thread and guiding the sword by it, had been taught to him by Lee River's 5 elders. Those 5 elders were mighty figures who had shattered their celestial being walls and awakened their celestial being divine treasures. That alone proved how intricate the sword control techniques they passed down must be. Beyond sword control, Senior Brother Q also employed a fist art created by Lee River's 5 elders, called the Lee River Arts. This fist art channeled vital chi through both arms, letting it surge forth like the waves of a great river, splitting the riverbanks with peerless might. He had not trained it to the realm of divine arts, yet its power was no trifling matter. With it, shattering boulders or crushing rocks into dust was child's play. And yet, before that little devil's small wooden stick, both grand techniques were riddled with flaws. That wooden stick continually broke through his defenses, raining blows over every part of his body. Lumps rose across Senior Brother Q's head, and bruises spread over his frame. How could he not be infuriated? Yet what he felt was more terror than fury. If the wooden stick in Chin-Mu's hand were a knife instead. Senior Brother Q did not dare imagine the outcome. This was far too horrifying. This youth's head did not even reach his chest, 11 or 12 at most. Even if he had begun cultivating in his mother's womb, he should not have been able to reach such an obscene level of mastery with such frightening techniques. The cultivation of his vital chi. Senior brother Q thought, spotting Chinmu's weakness and forcing himself to steady down. His techniques may be extremely refined, but his cultivation is pathetically weak. In fact, it would be more accurate to say he doesn't possess a spirit body. He might just be an ordinary human. In the end, he arrived at a crucial conclusion. Chinmu was an ordinary person. He had no spirit body and had not awakened his spirit embryo divine treasure. He had likely cultivated only basic methods, like the Daoyin technique, allowing him to produce some amount of vital qi. However, the vital qi cultivated by ordinary people held no attributes, making it difficult to unleash true power. That was why Chinmu's offensive techniques, though superior to senior brother Q's, were not terribly threatening. They lacked force behind them. The knife art this devil brat is using should be a divine art. He just hasn't trained it enough to display its power, senior brother Q thought. If I could obtain this divine art. Senior brother Q's heart began to feel lighter. Chinmu could not bring out the knife art's full might, but he, on the other hand, could still reveal part of its power. If the knife art were in his hands, it would certainly be terrifying. He could see that Chinmu's knife art was a battle technique. The divine arts of battle techniques and sword control techniques were not the same. Sword control freed one's hands, allowing the sword to fly and kill on its own, making sword skills more agile. With hands freed, one could strike enemies at the same time as the sword, creating a more varied fighting style. Battle techniques, however, were different. Battle techniques followed the most primal path, requiring both hands to wield the weapon, letting vital qi surge into the weapon, amplifying the power of each strike, and making the divine art far stronger. A few hundred years ago, when both paths existed side by side, practitioners of battle techniques and practitioners of sword control techniques constantly clashed over which was superior. But then a genius heir of a sword control lineage suddenly appeared from nowhere and began slaughtering powerful battle technique practitioners. They were killed, crippled, or forced to flee from him. That genius was none other than the #1 man beneath the gods, the one Eternal Peace Empire had crowned as its imperial preceptor. Hardly anyone cultivated battle techniques anymore. Over generations without successors, the top-tier battle technique divine arts were lost. Only low-quality battle techniques were passed down now. Yet a genuine, top-tier battle technique remained astonishingly powerful. And senior brother Q firmly believed the knife art Chinmu displayed was a true top-tier battle technique. I must get my hands on this battle technique. Senior brother Q cried inwardly. Once I subdue him, I'll force him to reveal the cultivation method of this battle technique no matter what. Chinmu's small wooden stick continued to strike. Senior brother Q in a frantic barrage, while senior brother Q did everything he could to block. Yet he could not block them all, and within a short time he had taken hundreds of hits. Senior brother Q grew increasingly furious as his face swelled more and more, and the pain tearing through his body intensified. The more furious he became, the sloppier his movements grew, and the number of strikes landing upon him only rose higher and higher. It was only a short wooden stick without much power. Yet with Chinmu's strength behind it and the relentless beating, the damage accumulated bit by bit. In the end, senior brother Q's body suffered significant harm from that wooden stick, harm that continued to worsen. He's going to beat me to death. The thought made senior brother Q's blood turn ice cold.